Hi, I'm Michael Nadlin from Market Lead, and here is the video for the ultimate beginner's guide to Google Tag Manager, especially for business owners, marketing managers, and advertisers. So the reason why I've created this training is because it's one of the biggest questions I get, even more than advertising, is how to use Google Tag Manager and even what it is. So I've got a lot of friends who are business owners, friends who are marketing managers, and advertisers who just continuously ask me about this. So rather than always giving them feedback and always giving them a one-on-one session, I thought I'd record this video. So here we go. What it is your simple one-stop shop for setting up codes, tracking, and more on your website. So instead of manually putting codes on your website, you can do them in one simple place. Now, so it just makes it so much better because there's no developers needed. You just need to get the original Google Tag Manager on your website, and which you can even do yourself depending on your access to the back end of the website. Why is this important? Because you can do everything yourself. You can set it up and track everything in minutes. There's no waiting for weeks for someone else to get the tracking set up. It's faster setup, and proper tracking makes life easier. Now, this is something I deal with a lot, especially with like larger companies that have internal IT teams that you require getting tickets to get everything done. So as soon as I get that Google Tag Manager set up, I can literally do multiple tracking codes for everything I need within minutes. So what can you do? You can set up all in one place. Your Google Ads code, Google Ads conversion and lead tracking, dynamic call tracking for Google Ads, your Facebook ads-based pixel code, Facebook ads conversion and lead tracking, Google Analytics 4, Google Analytics conversion and lead tracking. Obviously, you can see where I'm going, but also more than that. It's not just Google and Facebook products. You can put your Microsoft ad, Reddit ads, any ad tracking, and literally any HTML code or third-party codes that need to be added to your site. So it's not exclusive just for ad codes. I'm doing this because most of my work is around advertising, but you can do it for so much more, like heat map tracking, website tracking for any sort. I'm just trying to think of some now, which I'm not really getting. So what it can't do, now there are a few things that people want it to do that it just can't do. So Facebook domain verification. So if you do have a Facebook ad account that does need the domain verification, that code does need to be added to your HTML on your website. And then some e-commerce tracking data. So there are places or ways you can pull in e-commerce data through GTM, but a lot of the time it's quite difficult. So it's better to do it on your e-commerce backend like Shopify. So here are a few definitions. Now, these are the three things you need to know. Well, realistically, it's the top two. And I say it's the top two because these are the ones I mostly use myself. So there's the tag, which is the code that will fire or is activated, which is pretty much what happens. So for example, you've got the Google Ads code, which is what you want to fire. And then the trigger is what will cause the code to fire or activate. So when does it happen? Now, probably not the best example, but just treat it like a gun with a trigger on it and a tag. The tag is the bullet and the trigger is what makes it go off. So some tags will be firing on all pages like a Facebook-based pixel code. And then there will be some triggers for some codes like conversions that will only fire once someone's actually submitted an application or submitted a lead form. And the third one is a variable. So these are just other conditions and triggers that need to be met. Don't worry about this. This is quite advanced. If you get to the point where this is something, you're probably at the point where you're using Google Tag Manager quite well and you'd be able to figure this out for yourself. So here are a few of the codes and how it's set up. Now, these look like a lot of codes, and if you do look at some of my Google Tag Manager containers, you would see that I have a lot of codes in there, but it's really broken down into two type of triggers. You've got the all pages triggers and then like the conversion triggers. So for example, Google Ads, we're going to have the base code or the retargeting code, which will trigger on all pages. Google Ads as well will have a conversion tracking for a lead that will trigger on a thank you page. Google Ads, once again, this is like more of a nuanced one, more for Google Ads advertisers, but dynamic phone tracking. Once again, this will fire on all pages. And that's the reason why it fires on all pages is I'll explain later. We'll also have got Google Analytics 4, which both have base codes that you put on all pages, And then you have the Google Analytics and Google Analytics for conversion tracking lead, which once again would fire on our thank you page. And we're using thank you page for this example because it's easier just to use the URL as an example rather than some other more advanced variables or elements and IDs that would use. And then once again, those are all Google products. So we've got a third party one, which would be the Facebook ads, which would have their base pixel or their base code. And that would fire on all pages. And then Facebook ads, we've also got the conversion going to the thank you page. So let's jump in. Now, whilst I could do one of my own images, I just thought I'd quickly just jump onto Google and just look up Google Tag Manager for an example. So there's an amazing few examples here to show exactly what Google Tag Manager is. So, you've got your website, and then you've got your tag manager, and then you've got all the tags that fire within it. And there's just a lot of great examples of just like how this works. So instead of putting individual tags or individual codes on your website, you just put them in one place, and then you put that one tag manager on your website, and then everything from there is quite seamless. So this is just a beautiful visual example of what Google Tag Manager will be doing for you. Here we go. So what you need to do is make sure that you're logged into your Google account, and you just Google Tag Manager, pretty simple, and just click here. And it'll take you to the Google Tag Manager site. And what we need to do here is create an account. And this is going to be really simple. And for this one, I'm just going to do my company Market Lead, and I'm just going to be setting up a test account. So for you, you wouldn't need to be setting up a test account. I'd be doing marketlead.com.au, and we want to be using it for web and create. So this is really simple, all of this, and just going through it. And then you just set it up. So what you've got now is your new account. And an account also contains containers within it. So this is the code that we'll be putting on the website. So once you've got your Google Tag Manager all set up, you'll just put this code on your website. And then once this code fires, everything goes from there. So you've got the three things. We've got tags, triggers, and variables, which we spoke about before. Now, where I like to start is triggers. Now, the reason why I like triggers is you can set up the things that the codes are going to fire on. Now, for this example, there's only going to be two things that we're going to be firing on. All pages, so that would be a base code or a base pixel, and then a conversion goal. Now, for this, I've set up a conversion goal on my website for Market Lead, and it goes, once someone submits a lead, it goes to thank you test. So when we're in here, the two triggers that are going to be firing when our website's set up is going to be all website traffic and the new thank you test. So going here, I'm going to be setting up a new trigger. So I'm just going to call this page view, and I usually call it page view just to make it easier. I grab this and call it, and I usually just keep what the URL is called, and then thank you test. Now I'm actually going to grab this and configure. And what we want the configuration to be is someone who's gone to a page view and they've viewed the page path or the page URL, which one doesn't matter, contains thank you test. So the reason why I do this is it means that if I have a site that has thank you or another lead that has thank-you, it won't trigger. Now, if you do want to track everything that's a thank you page, you can actually just have thank. And this could be like a catch-all trigger. So the best way to do this is to do contains. Now, there's so many other ways you can do this. It has to equal this exactly. Sometimes that can be an issue. So I always just do contains. And the reason why I'm doing that is just so for this one, I can show you how this fires. So what we've got now is page view thank you test. So when someone goes to this page on Market Lead, they will see this conversion fire. So I'll just press save. Now, I'm going to go through a really fast walkthrough of how to set this up for Facebook ads, Google Analytics, and then any other ones you want to set up. So I'll actually start with Google Ads because that's my specialty area. So what I will be doing here is I'll set up a new remarketing pixel, and that's pretty much the Google Ads. I just call this base code. And the easiest way to do that is then I just jump into over here. So I'm in just Google Ads. I'll be going to Tools and Settings, and then I will be going down to Audience Manager. And this is where I can get the base code from. So then I can go to your data sources. And then in here, I'll be setting up a new tag. Continue. this one. I don't think there are any other settings I need to change. And then install the tag. So I'll go here and just grab this conversion ID. So this is the conversion ID, and all I'll need to be doing is put the conversion ID in here, and that's it. And then my trigger will be all pages, because I want this code to fire on all pages so I can retarget things. Now notice here it's saying conversion linker tag is missing. This is just an additional code that just helps track conversions across multiple pages. So I'll just press save there, and we'll just get back to that later. So we've set up the base code there. We jump back into Google Ads, press continue, done. Now that's been set up, so it just means that now anytime someone goes to any page, it will be tracking it in Google Ads. Now the next one we want to do is conversions. So this one I'm just going to set up two basic conversions. One will be for a lead and one will be for call tracking. So the new conversion action here. Now we want to go to website. Just go marketlead.com.au. This has changed, and this does change over the years, so this might look a bit different from time to time. Add a conversion manually. Now I'll just do one called submit lead form. Doesn't really matter what you do it. Usually probably it's better to have it. So I'll just do submit lead form. Go down here. Don't use a value. Count 1. Walk through window. All of these you can keep, and then keep this at data driven. This is, you can decide this yourself. This is me just setting up a test, and then just go to usually save and continue. And then we want to go to use Google Tag Manager. So now we've got the Google conversion ID, which will actually be the same as the one before, as you can see in here. But now we're actually putting additional code in. So this one will be called Google Ads Lead Conversion. And then we go here, conversion tracking, same conversion ID. We go back to the account, and then we want to grab this submit lead form data. And this we'll be putting in here, conversion label, and everything can stay the same. Down here, the trigger will be someone who goes to the thank you page. So this is a conversion in Google Ads. So when someone does go to this page, this conversion will fire. So save. Now, I'm going to do the other conversion linker. So we just quickly go in here. I just write other conversion linker. And this we go here, conversion linker, simple here, all pages, save, done. So this is quite simple as you get the hand of it. Like there's only two codes I'm really setting up, is all pages and thank you tests. Now the next one I want to go into will be Facebook ads. So we just jump in here. Now I've just set up a fake pixel here. So you just go to your business manager, go to pixels. Once again, this isn't about how to set up the pixel, it's about how to implement it. Continue to pixel setup. I'll be doing meta pixel, connect. It's called store code manually. And then I'll be copying this code. So this is the Facebook code. Then I go into here, and this one's a bit different. So I call it Facebook base pixel, or you can call it base code. Tag configuration. Now, Google, because that was a Google product, the Google Ads one, they have inbuilt features or inbuilt containers for it. What for Facebook and other platforms, you just have to use custom HTML. So it just means that this code will fire when someone goes to, once again, all pages. There we go. So there we go. That's the Facebook pixel setup. Like really simple stuff. Now you just want to go through here. I'll just quickly finish this off. Turn that on. You will need to verify your domain. That's another important thing, and you can't do that through Google Tag Manager. And then the next thing is you just want to be going this off, and you want to be at next setting up the conversion pixel. So I just need to get those conversion codes. I'll get that in a second. So I'll go to, let's go over here, and we'll go to Facebook ads conversion codes. Now these are different for different pixels or different conversions you want. So you can just go in here. Usually you can just go to lead. I usually just use lead. It doesn't look like it's showing in here. Let's just go back here, lead. Here we go. So these are the codes that we want to fire. So down here, usually if you just got a conversion, you just grab this code here, go back into Tag Manager, and we'd go here, Facebook ads. I'll just call it Facebook lead conversion. Tag configuration, once again, HTML, but this time I just need to put script. I'm going to get rid of this Grammarly thing here. And close the script. Now, the other thing I notice sometimes with Facebook, it doesn't actually fire this script properly. So what a really good workaround is, and this once again will be on the thank you test. We've got that saved. Is what you can actually do is you go back up to your base pixel, you grab this code and see how it was firing on page view here. You can turn this into the lead, so we can actually just put the same code in here. Let's grab that lead code and then let's put it onto here. And you can have the page view fire again, it doesn't really matter. But then once again, it just hard codes that again, just in case there are any errors, which does happen from time to time. Now, the next one we want to jump into is Google Analytics. So like, as you can see, we've already done the Facebook tracking setup, our base pixel tracking, Google Ads, and then the conversion linker. Now we just go to Google Analytics. And here I'll show how to set up both Analytics GA4 and the universal one. So start measuring, market lead test. Next. And then let's do Australia. That's where I am. Melbourne. AUD. Now for this, I still will just set up a historical one just to make sure that I can show how it's set up. This won't be available in the future, so we want to create both the GA4 and Universal Analytics. Next. Small. Let's do this. Create. So now there will be multiple codes I'll need to set up. So this has already gone straight into the GA4. And then there'll also be in here, we'll have the universal. So let's start off with the universal just because it'll be easier to set up. So you just go in here, you'll be going to tracking info, tracking codes, or tracking code. And instead of grabbing this, you can actually just grab this code here, jump back into Tag Manager. And what we want to do is new Google Analytics base code. And then we go into Universal Analytics here, tag type, page view, analytics setting, and this is where we add a variable, new variable to the tracking code that we just had in here, and then just name it this just for good name sake. Got it there, done. So anytime someone goes to, once again, all pages, this Google Analytics code will fire. Very simple. Now, the next thing we want to do is the Google Analytics conversion. So we go Google Analytics conversion, lead conversion. And then here we'll go in here, go to Universal Analytics, go to event. So we've got to create an event. So I'll call the category leads, or maybe conversion, submission. So just like saying categories, and then I'll just write lead here. So the reason we need to do this is so when we go back into analytics, when we set this up, we've got to set up goals. And then this is what event data will fire. So for analytics, when someone submits a lead, we can actually submit this data in here. So it'll be lead conversion, event, and then we can just copy that data over here. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is in Tag Manager is because this is a Tag Manager training. You can also just use the URL in Google Analytics to track a conversion, but for this, I just want to make sure. And by the way, you can actually verify this goal, but because there's no data, nothing will come through. So I just save that. Now we've set up a goal, and it just, as I was going before, you can actually just set up conversion here, going to destination, and you can just go and then put a URL in there. But we don't need to do that. So this is, once again, set up the conversion. So once someone's done this, and then they go to the thank you page test, a conversion will now fire in Google Analytics. Oops. There we go. So Google Analytics is done. Google Analytics base code, the code will fire on all pages, and then Google Analytics lead conversion. Now let's jump into our friend Google Analytics 4. So this one's a bit different. We want to go to admin, and then I believe it's setup assistant, and just want to check it's here. Yep, here. And then you want to grab the measurement ID. Jump back into Google Tag Manager, and then we just jump in here again. So Google Analytics 4 base code, and then we just go to GA4 event, tag configuration. Oh no, it's not an event. It's GA4 configuration. Measurement ID. So just want to make sure that's correct. Measurement ID, and then this will also fire on all pages. So now the Google Analytics 4 code will fire on all pages. And then the next one will be Google Analytics 4 lead conversion. And then we go in here, event. And what we need to do is select the code or the base code we just did, and we need to put a manual name in. So I'll just put in lead conversion. And then the trigger will be on the thank you test page. And then that data will start pushing through to Google Analytics 4 and Google Analytics, the universal. So as you see, this is really simple to set up. You just always have your base pixel or your base codes, which will be the ones that just capture all the data for other analysis. And then you've got to set up your conversion tracking through it. And then you can do this with so many other platforms as well. Now, the next part I'll just quickly show you is how to test this. So whilst this is very simple and we are going to a simple page here, we'll be able to quickly see that these will fire, but sometimes you need to make sure that when you go to certain pages, the codes do fire. So we'll go into that next. I also just realized as I finished that segment, I also missed out on a very vital and important conversion goal that a lot of people have confusion about, and that is actually the Google Ads dynamic call tracking. So this is another conversion goal that we should set up, and I think all advertisers should set this up. So this is a conversion goal that you track phone numbers. So it's when someone actually calls to a phone number on your website. And this is really good because a lot of times someone might go to your ad or come to your website and they pick up the phone rather than submit a lead. So this is a really cost-effective way to actually track your phone calls. So jump into the conversion scans, phone calls, and then calls to a phone number on your website, continue. And then just call as I like to call it dynamic phone tracking, and then whatever number. So I'll just put in a fake number like 919 555 5555, and I'll actually copy that. And then just go down here, don't add value, United States here, and then the phone number. So what you want to do is the destination number is what the number it will actually finalize and end up going to, and the display number will be the number on the website. Now, they should be the same, but what this does at the end of the day is if your website is this, or your phone number is this, what Google will do is actually have a very similar number like 909 555 5665, and it will just replace a few digits with a forwarding number, and you can just like capture call data and very valuable call data like length of the call, keyword it came from the campaign. So it just allows you to optimize your campaigns better. And you can just change these settings however you want to count this as a conversion, create and continue. And the beauty of this one is it's quite simple. Now, usually in the past, you could use the tag manager, but a lot of times I've worked with people and myself who prefer just installing the tag yourself, and then you just press, you can just go down here because you've already set up the other tags. Just grab this little bit of script here, which you can just see is pretty much saying find this phone number and replace it. Jump back into here, go and call this Google Ads Dynamic Phone Tracking. I might actually just move this down. I realize it's been cut out. And then you can put the phone number. I've got clients that have multiple phone numbers. Go back in here, custom HTML, and then you put this on all pages. Now, the good thing about this is it will only fire when someone comes through a Google ad or has recently come through a Google ad. So Google will be storing cookies on your website that when someone has come through a Google ad, it will dynamically change the number. If someone hasn't, then it won't change it. So it's only for a Google ads person. Press save. And similar to before, you just have it there. Where were we? Dynamic phone tracking. And then we submit that. And there we go. Test our tags and make sure it's working. So the first thing you need to do is just jump into the Chrome store or whatever browser you use and get the Tag Assistant Legacy by Google. And you just want to add this to Chrome. Or for me, it's Brave, but you can use a Chrome. And then just move this down here. There we go, got it installed, and I'll actually just pin that here. So what I've done is I've actually added this code to my website. Now you need to figure out how to put it on your website. You can just Google add GTM code to your website. You just click here, grab this code. You don't actually need to put this code on, I found, but just grab this code and put it as high up on the page as possible in the HTML code. Now, once you've done that, and we've done that, I can actually go to marketlead.com.au and you'll actually see that my Google Tag Manager on here. And make sure that if you've got any ad blockers, turn them off, because Google Tag Manager is an ad. Technically is seen as an ad or tracking pixel. So I've turned this off on Brave. And then when I'm on my website, I can just go done, enable, and then just actually need to refresh this. And we had my tag manager as MCH, ZD. We can see here, get rid of all of this. There we go, MCH. And then we got it there. So now we're actually tracking on my website. Now, there's a lot of codes I'm actually tracking on here because I've got my own personal ones that are on the website. But what also we can do is we can go back to thank you test. And then when we go to this site, we'll actually see more codes are firing. So later, you can see conversion tracking is firing and other codes are firing. So that's the first thing we need to do. Now, how we can test this is if we go to the preview. So we go to preview in here, click here. This will allow us to test our tag on our website. So for me, I'll just be putting in marketlead.com.au. Connect. And what this will be doing is, whilst I've got the website here, I've also got this here. So when someone goes to my website, this is showing me which of my codes from my Google Tag Manager are firing. So someone, when they go to my site, they got the Google Ads code, the conversion linker, the analytics base code, the base code for GA4, Facebook base code, and the dynamic phone tracking. Now, what's not firing when someone goes to my website is the Google Ads lead conversion, because they haven't submitted a lead. So I don't want these codes to fire. Now, if you go through your website, and you can actually do this, but I haven't actually set up a form for this, what you can do is you can fill out a form, and then once it's submitted, all this data will change. But let's actually just go here now, and let me just go to thank you test, and we should see now that all these codes are now firing. So this was the original page, this is the thank you test page. And now we can actually see that when someone goes to my thank you test page, all the conversion pixels are firing. So here we had none of those conversions firing, but when they go to that thank you page, all of them are firing now. So the lead conversion for Google Ads, what other ones do we have? Facebook, Google Analytics 4, and then Google Analytics. So they're all there, and that's pretty much just like a really basic example. Now, when you do this and you submit a form, there's other ways you can also diagnose, identifiers that make your lead submit. So like when I go in here, like there's a lot of things like what's fired, but you can also go into variables. So if I've submitted a form, there will actually be events that will fire in here that will give unique identifiers. And you can actually use these type of variables to set up event codes or variables in Google Tag Manager to track your conversion. So whilst I only used a page, I just use that as a simple method. There's a lot of ways you can learn to set up a form tracking for something that doesn't go redirect, but that's just a little bit more technical. This is really just a basic video on how to set up the base pixels and base codes, and then how to just set up a tracking if it goes to a thank you page or any other sort of success page. Now, before we finish up, there's one last question that I know I'll get is what happens if my conversion doesn't go to a thank you or a success page? So it just means if you're submitting a lead form or something happens on the website and it shows a success message, but it doesn't actually go to another page. So this is an example of one of my clients. This is their Google Tag Manager in preview mode, so you can see all the tags that are fired when the page is loaded, and then the tags that have not fired down here being in the conversion ones down here. Now, I've filled out the form. So I've been through the form. You can see all the clicks going through all the fields, form started, gone through there. And then on the last form, I click the submit button, and then I go into variables, and I can actually see that click ID has a unique variable to it, or a unique value to it. So with this, I can actually create a trigger. So I can go into Google Tag Manager, which I have, and create a click ID for form submit button, click all elements. When someone clicks, a click ID contains the same G-form submit button 1. Now, not all the time will something show in here. So you might need to go into the data layer or look at other variables that can identify when a conversion is submitted. If you can't, you might need to speak to a developer to do some advanced variable layering in there. But even for this client, you can see form submit here. That's something that's actually been pre-built in, so I can use that. But for this example, I wanted to show that on the last click, when I clicked the submit button, something did fire for me that was unique. Now, in here as well, there isn't really much else that was unique, but this was already pre-programmed in there for me. So this has really helped me. Now, for yourself as a business owner or a marketing manager or an advertiser, this is where a lot of value lays. So we've gone through a lot of information here, mainly focused on the all pages trigger and all the lead going to a thank you page trigger as well. But this one's a really advanced, more on the advanced side of the trigger, that if you can get this down, you really can track anything. And then if there's nothing here, if you can go down to the data layer and actually grab some information there, pull it back to the variable, then you're actually allowing yourself to do some more really advanced advertising, tracking, and more. Now, I know there's a lot of stuff that I'm doing that's even more advanced than this. Well, this isn't that advanced, but I did want to share this with you just to know that there is a way that you can always get and track things properly rather than relying on a developer. If you do master this, tracking and advertising becomes so much easier. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Let's jump in, go on now and implement this for yourself and let me know how you go.